right. So our next speaker is also already with us. So, hi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello, my name is Andri. I'm from Trend Asia, a researcher from Trend Asia, organizations in Indonesia that focus on transforming the energy and development in Southeast Asia. And it's great pleasure to join the event with the Fridays for Future Singapore.
So, Jen just now, Jen from I have to, yeah, I really can't get that acronym
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, Jen just shared with us how local communities are being impacted by climate change, specifically the increased frequency such as wildfires and flooding, typhoons. And could you maybe go into how Indonesians are affected?
Hong Yu and Min, I'm so sorry, but your voice is not quite clear and so far from the speaker, I think.
Okay. Are you able to hear us now? Sorry, I shall change. Are you able to hear us now?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, do you want to repeat the question? I'm so
Right.
sorry.
So basically, how are Indonesians in your communities affected by climate change, and yeah, the increased frequency of climate disasters as a result of climate change?
Okay. Thank you, you and Min. This question is very interesting to be answered. But Indonesia, as we know, is the biggest nations with a lot of island, and the impact of the climate change is very affected by the community since we live a lot of since many people living in the near us coastal area and Indonesia, one of the biggest one of the fourth biggest coal producer, and a lot of coal fire power plant here, and that's one of the major factors that's speeding up the climate change in Indonesia. So can I share the slide, Min and
Yeah, sure.
yeah, sure. This is I prepare slide about the story about the impact of fire power plants that is one of the major factors of the climate change in Indonesia. Okay, uh, I will explain about the issues that coal as the cheapest energy source is actually a myth. You know, uh, Coal is one of the well-known factors that contributing the worldwide gas emissions. Almost a half of worldwide emissions is contributed by the coal that speed up the climate change. And then many people argue that this source of energy is the cheapest one to be used as the main source of energy in a lot of countries, including the Indonesia. As your informations, for your informations, Indonesia is having only 2% of coal reserve in the world, and then, but in terms of the producing, they make fourth largest positions that contributing the worldwide amount and supply, and it used to be export and import for the energy sector. And coal as the cheapest energy source is actually a myth because they never calculate the cost of productions in a good quality. For example, they never calculate the impact for the environment. They never calculate about the impact of the local community, and they never calculate the cost of production, for example, like reclamations and then the post mining process that they leave a lot of impact in the local community. I will explain it later, but this is a serious problem in Indonesia. And uh, as we are going to discuss about the climate change, we cannot deny that the climate change is a not natural process. It's more than a natural process. Rather than a natural process, a climate change is actually a human-made factors that contributing all the problem that related to the climate change. For example, we know that the coal-fired power plant is contributing of almost the half of worldwide emissions, but we still force the making new coal power plant because we know that a lot of the business persons and a lot of politicians in many major countries in the world is having connections with the mining in the coal, and then they make a coal-fired power plant. So basically, they get the benefit from the upstream and the downstream because they make the coal-fired power plant in the downstream, and then they make a coal extracting and then the coal mining in the upstream. So Singapore, I really interesting when the Fridays for Future Singapore invite me to join these discussions and then to share about the what is the impact. But before we are going to the impact, I want to explain more about the context of the climate change that also having a connections with the Singapore as a citizens and as a country. Singapore having a DBS Bank, and now DBS Bank is involved with the project in Java, the most populous island in the world, also in Indonesia. And then they are going to make a Java 9 and 10 project, and it will be if if this coal power plant uh, built and operated, it will be added more than two 2000 gigawatts, 2000 megawatts in Suralaya complex, that we know that it's a coal-fired power plant, the biggest coal-fired plant in Southeast Asia, and they're forcing the investment because why I call it forced investment because there is no justify for in terms of the economy, in terms of the impact of the community, and then in terms of the environmental benefit. I will, and if the DBS Bank, for example, involving in this project and with the Korean company and Indonesian company, this is hypocritical policy because if we are serious to tackle the climate change, never please transform the energy into the clean one because if it's not be happen, the energy will contribute to the climate change more and more and getting worse and affected by the community. Uh, this is the coal power plant having a serious impact from the upstream and downstream for several aspects like the environment, public health, and local community economy. Uh, the pollutions and then the coal power plant is ruining the local community economy that being the fishermen, the net fishermen, and then the small seller near the coastal areas, and then ruining the environment because of the coal fire plant is having a pollutions, and then the air quality is getting worse, and it contributes to the greenhouse gases that seriously affected to the climate change. And I I I don't really like using the climate change. I'm more like into the climate crisis because we it in fact that in Indonesia, for example, like Java, that the most populous island is the crisis is very felt by the community, not only the nearest community, but all around the community near the coal power plant. So this is the map for the air quality in Java Island, and the project that I told you built in Indonesia, Java 910 project, a new coal power plant is built here. And this is the Jakarta, Indonesian's capital. And the Java is more 100 millions people living here is having a bad air quality. And the climate change is very affected. For example, the coastal area is getting bad in quality, and then this the sea level is getting high years by years. Uh, for the impact, I will explain later if there is a further questions. But it's so difficult to find any fish to be catch because of a lot of the coal ship, and then there is a coal power plant that use the coastal area as the area for operated, and the coral quality is very bad, and then they have to uh, they have to use more cost to take any fish from the sea. And this is the serious one. In in the other hand, we know that the coal power plant, in terms of the affecting the climate change, it also affecting the health of the community. There is a high level of pollutants near the fire power plant, and if the coal Java Coal 9 and 10 project built and allowed to operate it, there are a lot of premature deaths that going to be happen. And then the Banten province, for example, that will be built coal power plant, new power plant, is having a problem with the acute respiratory infections because Banten province is the top 5 with high ARI in Indonesia. And then the area, for example, like specifically in Serang and Cilegon, as the nearest area of coal power plant, is being one of the highest number of acute respiratory infections with more than 40,000 cases. As for the first and initial informations for these discussions, Banten as the province is the biggest area that having a biggest number of the coal-fired power plant because it's near Jakarta, and then the government and a lot of investor from domestic and the foreign investor exploiting Banten for dirty energy project. So they have a more than 15 units of the coal power plant in Banten. That is the biggest, the number one of the uh, area or province that having a coal-fired power plant. But that's it at first. But now I'm opening to the next questions. Just okay.
Right. So I think that was a very interesting sharing, and I think the part about DBS funding the coal projects is yeah is so we just realized that like it's like people like from the richer countries that like DBS in Singapore going to other places investing in these coal plants for their own profits, but I think the local communities are affected, and it's not something we talk about here in Singapore, right?
Well, it's they technically do talk about it. It's just that you also have to dig through several hundred pages of financial documents to really understand what's going on. I think, yeah, I think it really misses out a lot of the actual impact that you mentioned. But one of the so I'd like to know about one thing. If coal is bad for the health of the people, it's bad for the environment, and it's even bad for the economy, like as in that it's unsustainable. Why do banks and governments still invest in it, as far as you can tell?
Okay, that's quite interesting. Banten as the area in Indonesia, this is for the case, but also the making of new coal power plant in Indonesia always follow up by the conflict in every regions. But in Banten, that is very unique. Suralaya coal-fired power plant is the oldest, one of the oldest coal power plant in Indonesia, and work they built that coal-fired power plant under the authoritarianism government. And at the first time, the Suralaya community is living, having a prosperity with living with the agricultures and then the fisheries, and then until the coal-fired power plant come and ruin all the quality of the area. For example, the water, the air quality, and then they no longer can use the agriculture or the fisher as the main source of income. That's the first explanations. So the people cannot resist at that time, and then it's gradually the people getting moved to the new kind of source of income. For example, like the coal power plant, working for coal power plant because of the quality of environment is very bad. But no, times by time, this will be justified for the government to make a more and more a coal power plant. In fact, the absorb the absorbance of the workers for the coal power plant is not that much. It's only, and the local economy is really affected, and some of the local cannot participate in the circle of the economy by that happen from the coal power plant. And then why the question is why the government keep investing on the coal that has a significant impact to the climate change and then significant impacts to the environment, and then to not having that much significant impact for the local economy. The question is because of the context. Indonesia is having a Indonesia is only having a 2% of the coal worldwide reserve. It's only for 11th positions in the world, but they are exploiting the coal and make Indonesia at the fourth positions of larger coals. So we know that a lot of countries in the world is avoiding the coal for energy source of main energy source. So Indonesia is keep asking the investor just in case to make a new coal power plant because of the demand, because the producing the coal that's already extract for from the Borneo, from the Sumatra should be absorbed in the industry. So they are asking the investor from the Korea, the Japan, the China, and even the Singapore to be involved in this project because of a lot of politicians, a lot of entrepreneur in Indonesia, a lot of oligarch in Indonesia is having connections. And the right side, they have a mining industry, and they have a mining permit. They extract the coal. And the other hand, they make a coal-fired power plant. So the question is, they have a benefit in these both sides. There is no significant impact and benefit for the people, but why they keep pushing it? Because there must be a party that really get benefit from this dirty energy, and a lot of people is already accused that this policy to make a coal that really dangerous for the climate and then the environment and then the health of the community is by design prepared because of the benefit to benefit a several party. For example, like what I call it like oligarchy for mining oligarchy and then the oligarchy of energy in Indonesia. So I think this is a complex by design, and they keep maintain this kind of problem because of if they change to the renewable energy, they're losing their benefit and they are losing the profit. So I think that's my answer for these questions.
Thank you for the answer. So now, so we've been talking about not investing in coal. So let's talk a bit more about renewables. Are renewables feasible? Is it something that can completely replace coal? Like some people would say, oh, but
Yeah,
we need coal, we need fossil fuels to generate our electricity. We are not ready for renewables yet. What do you think about this?
yeah. Maybe probably that 10 years ago, we never imagined that the renewable energy prices and the cost of renewable energy is will be that cheap for now. It's already fallen more than 80%. And then, for example, in Indonesia, we have a lot of potential of energy such as the solar and then the wind. But for example, for specifically in Banten, where I talk about the 9 and 10 project as the case, they have a 5,000 megawatt. It's more than enough to support the electricity in the local area, but only 0% to be used as the energy source in that area. So I think if we talk about the cost of the renewable energy, the renewable energy is getting more cheap and the cheaper, and but the government still make the policy that not really provided a good climate for investment in renewable energy because of, for example, like renewable energy infrastructures and or elements or part of the renewable energy still categorized as the expensive part and then get a lot of tax if we get import. And this is the problem, why one of the problem. And by design and by the policy, the renewable energy cannot be accelerate and contribute with the problem in the local community.
So thank you for that. So I think the fact is that like it's a lot of rich countries like Singapore investing in coal, in these dirty sources of energy, or other in other poorer countries. And I think for our viewers at home, this is something that maybe you should consider when in talking about climate change, in what we are doing in other countries, and also ties in with the whole overall theme of climate injustice, right? It's us pumping money for coal projects in other countries, and we feel the benefits and the profits, but people on the ground, they are the ones who are getting affected by all of the negative impacts of having a coal power plant on their backyard.
Um, yes. So, um, would you, I mean, you as an Indonesian working in the communities that are affected, would you have anything to say with, like, if you could talk to the policymakers who are funding these projects, who are making these projects possible, is there anything you would like to say to them, or anything you'd like to say to the public in the countries that are funding these projects, such as you mentioned before, South Korea, China, even Singapore?
Okay, thank you, Hong Yu and Min. Climate change is actually a problem that need a comprehensive solutions. And if you are not having a solidarity and not having a comprehensive solutions, I mean, if the country is just doing their own things and not contact with the other and not connect with the other, and not having a partnership with the other, it means that climate change will still happen and having the impact for all the community around the world. For example, like this, a climate change that also speeded up by the power plant. Uh, it's for example like South Korea, for example like Japan, for example like China, for example like a Singapore that involved as a DBS that involved as the financial advisor for this project. Uh, it might be not built in your home or home country, but it put on your earth, it put on your world. We still live in the same place. Might be, for example, like the pollution, the greenhouse gas is not having a nationality. If you build the coal power plant in Indonesia, does it only affect for the Indonesians for the direct problem like the environment and then health impact? The health impact will be significantly felt by the local community. But in general, for example, the climate change, it might be affect the people around the world. So I think if you only stop making coal-fired plant, for example, like South Korea having a policy to stop the coal power plant, building the coal power plant in their home countries, but they're pumping up the money to Indonesia, it still not be a solution because you just you're just moving the problem, not solving the problem. And if, for example, like Singapore, as a developed countries and well known for the modern in technology, and the South Korea is also the same in Japan and something. And if you're just pumping up the money to the other countries like Indonesia that's still developing, that's still asking for infestations from the other, does it not going to affect you in general? It will affect you in general. It will affect the community around the world because of, yeah, this is our world. It's not, it's maybe not in your hometown, but you build something that affect our world. We're still living on the same planet. So yeah, maybe as the community living here, we just protest for building the coal-fired plant near my hometown, near my nearest area. But let's gather and let's moving together and protest because they keep ruining our planet.
Thank you for that. I think it's a very powerful message that all of us here are in this together, even though like maybe on the front line is the poorer countries, but in the end we all live in the same earth. And I think that's a very powerful message and all of us should play our part too. Thank you so much to Andri for your sharing. I think we have learned a lot, our viewers have learned a lot. Thank you so much. Bye bye.